Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hamilton, you authored Chairman Jordan's August 2023 amicus brief before the Fifth Circuit in Missouri versus Biden, correct?
That's correct.
And that brief cites heavily to transcripts from interviews taken by this committee, correct?
That's correct.
Were you provided access to those transcripts?
I was provided access to transcripts, yes.
How were they made available to you?
Well, I'm not going to get into anything further, anything that would be protected by a privilege. So no, I'm not going to answer that question.
How you got access to transcripts is not protected by privilege.
Well, sure it is. In my communications, in the way that I talk with my client, in the method in which I receive things from them is protected.
Okay, but you got the transcripts. Are you aware that these transcripts have not been released to the public?
I have no awareness of anything. I have awareness of what my client tells me.
That's an interesting admission. Are you aware that I sent Mr. Jordan a letter this past August explaining that the brief you wrote repeatedly misrepresented what witnesses actually said in those interviews?
I have heard about a letter that was sent by you.
Are you aware that it is sanctionable violation of Rule 11 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to knowingly misrepresent facts before a tribunal?
I am certainly aware of the rule. I am certainly aware that we did not violate the rule.
If you believe that you correctly and honestly represented the facts brought out in those witness interviews, will you join me in calling on Mr. Jordan to make all of the transcripts public without delay?
I will do no such thing at this point in time.
Why not?
I'm not going to engage in a debate with you in something that I have with one of my clients in open hearing.
Okay, so let me summarize. There is testimony before a closed hearing of this committee, transcribed interview before a closed hearing of this committee. Those transcriptions or transcriptions of those interviews are made available to you. You use them in a letter. You use them in a brief that you write. Those transcripts have not been released to the public, and allegations have been made, including by me, in a long letter to Mr. Jordan, that there were misrepresentations of those transcripts, and you won't join me in asking that they be made public so we can see whether, in fact, I am correct in saying that your letter, or your brief rather, misrepresents those transcripts. Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to place my August 2023 letter to Mr. Jordan into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Reichen-Melnick, my colleagues on the other side of the dais seem fixated on the idea that the President and the executive branch have the ability to exert total control over the border, even going so far as to force an impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas because he could not adhere to the impossible, quote, operational control, close quote, standards of the Secure Fence Act. Has any president of any party ever been able to exert total operational control over the border in accordance with the standards for the Secure Fence Act?
No, not at all.
Has any country in modern history been able to exert such control over their borders?
No, no country in human history has been able to shut the border to 100% of crossers. And in fact, every presidential administration, the last 3, have all released many people crossing the border.
Thank you. When was the last time that Congress reformed the immigration system to expand lawful pathways, and have encounters at the border increased or decreased since that time?
The last time Congress expanded lawful pathways was November 1990, 1 month before the first website went online. At the time, crossings were a little bit higher than they are today, but at the time only about 1 in 3 people crossing was even detected. Today, 70 to 80% of people crossing are detected, given all the border security apparatus that's been built up since then.
But the numbers are about the same.
About the same. It's hard to say because we don't have data on unique encounters, but not that different.
In May of 2023, last year, the American Immigration Council published a report entitled Beyond the Border Solution, outlining recommendations for long-term fixes to the problems in our immigration system, rather than focusing on short-term patches. In the time we have left, can you please discuss some of the solutions you propose in that report and how they would be more effective than trying to unilaterally shut down the border?
The first and most important thing Congress can do is just put resources in the system. You cannot adjudicate asylum claims at the border rapidly if you don't have the asylum officers to do it. You cannot have immigration cases heard rapidly if you don't have the immigration judges to do it. You need to get the system functioning again, and the only way to do that is if Congress steps in. Unfortunately, earlier this week, I think today, Congress voted to actually cut the budget of the immigration court, cutting it by $16 million. This is not the way forward. We need to increase that budget.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I yield back.
Mr. Roy.